Well, folks, today we are going to be looking at a 2028 presidential showdown that could be between Florida's current governor, Ron DeSantis, against New York Congresswoman AOC. This race would be a clash between two visions, the conservative strength versus the progressive idealism. We're going to break it all down for you today. Why DeSantis not only would win, but should win and must win. And why AOC's agenda would falter under scrutiny. You spend 5 minutes looking at her policies, it all goes away. By 2028, America will be ready for a leader who's proven he can deliver results, not just preach promises. Let's dive into this today, but before we do, drop down below, hit that subscribe button, make sure you never miss another video from us again in the future. Now, we all know, let's address the elephant in the room on this conversation. Right now, it is very safe to say that JD Vance is most likely going to be the nominee in 2028. But the reality is that we have 3.5 years between now and then. Things could happen. JD Vance may not be the one who's tapped to run the party after this. I think as of right now, it's safe to say that. But we have a solid choice right now in Governor DeSantis. So we are going to be analyzing this race for that reason. Now, DeSantis, by 2028, he will have been out of politics for about 2 years, my guess is. He cannot run for re-election as he's term limited. As governor, he was initially elected back in 2018 by about 30,000 votes, expanded his margin to about 1.5 million votes in the 2022 election. And, given his track record, shows why he was elected by such a huge margin he was re-elected by. He's a proven executive, not just a talker. He cut taxes, he slashed regulations, and he turned Florida into an economic powerhouse where there were many other states that flopped on the ground like a dead fish. Think about this. His stand against COVID, the COVID lockdowns in 2020 and beyond. While blue states shuttered the schools and businesses, DeSantis kept Florida open, prioritized freedom and common sense. And the result, people flocked to Florida and its economy boomed. And that is the leadership conservatives can trust. Even extremely liberal AOC, if you don't remember this, was vacationing in Florida during the COVID pandemic, while at the same time trying to shut down the entire country, keep schools closed, keep businesses closed, keep social distancing in place, keep mask mandates in place, put vaccine mandates in place. Remember that. Remember who she is. On cultural issues, Ron DeSantis is fearless. This guy he's got kahunas that are as big as watermelons. He banned critical race theory in schools. He protected parental rights in schools and stood up to woke corporations like Disney when they overstepped their bounds. And by 2028, he will definitely have a national platform to take that to Washington. Now, I do think we should bring up the reality. Ron DeSantis ran for president in 2024. Now, granted, there are rumors and reports that he still has about $9 or $10 million in the bank from his 24 campaign that he could use to launch a 28 campaign. But the reality is the 2024 election hurt Ron DeSantis. Ultimately, I think hindsight's 2020. I personally, right up front, I feel like we knew that Trump was going to be the nominee. That's what made it very difficult. Trump was running like an incumbent. And Ron DeSantis fills the same void that Donald Trump could. When Trump is gone, I think DeSantis will fill that void very, very well. And I think Vance can as well. But DeSantis can fill that. But it was basically like Trump versus like the Nikki Haley wing of the Republican Party. That's what we were facing up here. Trump versus DeSantis. Most people picked Trump. And it makes sense why, but it really did hurt him. I think he's been able to gain back a lot of political points, but ultimately, I think that set him back. He'd be in a much better position to go into the 28 election if he didn't run in 24, because DeSantis is just Trump 2.0. He is sharper, he's younger, he's more disciplined, and he doesn't have a lot of the baggage that comes with Trump. But there's also a lot of things that come with that baggage that people like about Trump. But the reality is DeSantis is the future of the GOP. He is results driven and not rhetoric driven. His rhetoric matches his results, no doubt about it. It's like no one can contend with that. Now let's jump over to AOC, who is the progressive dreamer. By 28, she will be 39, just old enough to run for president, and she is the darling silver spoon child of the progressive left. And you can say she's got a lot of charisma, no question. And social media following, it's like you're rivaling huge like rock stars and people in the political industry who are involved in politics. It's like she has a massive following on social media. But peel back that hype, and what is there? A lot of noise and really no substance. That's the reality of AOC. There just isn't a lot of substance behind her. Her record in Congress is pushing pie-in-the-sky ideas like the Green New Scam, trillions of dollars in spending with no clear plan to pay for it, free college, Medicare for all, you name it. She wants government's hand in every single pie, and she wants the government to foot the bill by taxing the rich into oblivion. This is just socialism dressed up as compassion, and it's never worked, and it's not going to work in America. She's loud on climate change, but clearly just ignores practical solutions with climate change and realities of climate change. The climate changes, whether it's human-driven or not, the climate changes. There was a point 10,000 years ago when all of North America was under a sheet of ice that was a mile deep. That had nothing to do with humans. So a 0.01% increase in the concentration of CO2 in our atmosphere, I'm not buying into that bull crap. The climate changes, no doubt. The climate is going to change. They've been telling us that Florida was going to be underwater for like decades. Like back in the 60s, they were saying by the 70s, Florida's going to be underwater. It would basically be gone. But the reality is Americans are not very good at addressing issues that are a long ways away. We see that the Social Security, for example, is a long ways away. We refuse to do anything about it. So why do you think it's going to be different when it comes to climate change? Americans are very good, though. They're not good at reacting to a train that's coming at them from 100 miles away. But when that train is 200 yards away, they usually adapt fairly well. And the reality is when it comes to climate change, she ignores practical solutions like nuclear energy, things that do not tank the economy. She wants to ignore the idea that America is one of the cleanest economies on the planet, while places like China and India, it doesn't matter what we do in America. Whatever China and India does is going to outweigh whatever we do. And same thing with Russia. Her rhetoric is divisive. She's called conservatives from everything from racist to misogynistic to the oppressors, which really alienates half the country before this race even starts. And I don't think, calling people oppressors and seeing the world in a binary view of people who are oppressed and the oppressors is a horrible way to go throughout life. And as a politician, I think it's doomed to fail. And AOC is a congresswoman, not a governor. She's never run for anything bigger than running her Twitter account or her TikTok account. By 28, and she already is a media star, but untested where it counts. She's untested in serious elections. She's untested in a serious debate. There's a lot of waters that are untested, which doesn't mean that she couldn't perform well. It just means that's a big liability or big risk that the Democrats have to take on. And we all know that Bernie Sanders is unlikely to run for president again. He's already come out and said that. And Democrats they find their legal and fundraising institutions under attack from the Trump administration, which is great. And the core base of voters to the Democrats are mortified and furious at congressional leaders and how the popularity of their party has come to generational lows. While progressives really have to stare down the prospect of a post-Bernie future. Bernie has a huge movement with a large devoted base of supporters. And he said doesn't want to run for president again. So the big question is, who will lead the network that Bernie built from scratch into the next presidential election and beyond? Bernie Sanders has reduced or championed, really eliminated billionaires, increasing the minimum wage, just some radical ideas. It's like he wants to tax billionaires into oblivion. He wants minimum wage to be $30. This guy is absolutely radical. He wants the government to control the means of production for basically everything. He wants Medicare for all. He wants the Green New Scam. It's like, what else do you need to hear? And now Bernie and AOC are on this fighting oligarchy tour. It's kind of funny. The party that gets support that, out of all the billionaires are 2,000 in America? For every one billionaire that supported Donald Trump, there are almost 3 that supported Kamala Harris. So don't give me this bullshit about, we're ruled by an oligarchy. Fuck off. Honest to God, fuck you and fuck off. And I don't even care if YouTube demonetizes this video. That's the truth. Bernie Sanders is radical, and they want to talk, and he's full of shit. He wants to talk about oligarchy. Look at your own party. Yours is the party of the oligarchy. Yours is the party of the billionaires and the rich. You are not the party of the working class anymore, Bernie. And as of right now, it really seems like AOC is going to be next up. AOC is next up on this. She is going to take over this left-wing, radical, transgender extremist, immigration extremist portion of the party, and she's going to run with it. She's going to run with it. But getting back to the actual election, look at the actual key issues. The economy is most likely going to be front and center again. DeSantis will be able to run on the jobs that he created and job growth in Florida and just the overall growth of the state of Florida. Florida's unemployment was below the national average for years under his administration, and he's promising tax cuts and deregulations nationwide if he were to become president. AOC, on the other hand, is pushing massive spending. Think $34 trillion national debt ballooning, which is at like 36 now, actually. It's like if AOC were to become president, our deficit would balloon to $100 trillion. She would push massive spending on the Green New Scam, Medicaid and Medicare for all. And she would expand social programs. It would be ridiculous. And we know as conservatives, and people, I shouldn't even say conservatives, people of common sense, that is a recipe for inflation and stagnation, or better known as stagflation. You know, we know the border is going to be big. So it's like, do you see AOC? Medicaid for all. How do you see that working out in Pennsylvania? How does the Green New Deal work out in Pennsylvania? Where you want to eliminate fracking and eliminate domestic manufacturing, basically. And if someone who wants to completely eliminate domestic manufacturing should never be president, if they do not understand the national security risk that we take on when we completely offshore our manufacturing in key industries that are vital for national security and for our economy as a whole. How do you think the people in Pennsylvania are going to react to no more fracking? How do you think they're going to react to shipping more manufacturing jobs overseas? How do you think the people in Michigan are going to respond to that? I don't think they're going to respond very well. DeSantis has already, it's like you look on immigration, border security. As governor of Florida, DeSantis already sent troops to the Texas border, cracked down on illegal immigration hardcore in Florida, and he said he's going to make it a national, if he were to become president, he would make it a national priority. Strong borders equals a strong nation. Meanwhile, on the other hand, you have AOC, the nut job, calling to abolish ICE and decriminalize border crossings. That's also has another name. It's called open borders, radical extremism, and Americans don't buy it. They don't. Democrats, this is the sad thing. There's a poll recently that showed Democrats in the base want the Democrats in Congress to do more, and they want, it was like 60% of the party wants the Democrats in Congress to fight Trump at every turn. Well, hold up. What about the issues that Trump is very popular on, like transgender issues, like immigration, like the economy, like the cost of living, like energy? What about those? I'm just wondering. What about those issues where Trump is very popular on? Are you just going to double down on your horseshit policies? And I'm trying to find real quick. I'm going to show you exactly why AOC is about open borders. I've got a great map right here. This is exactly why AOC and the Democrats are all about open borders and why Biden did what he did while he was president. 2030 is coming around the corner. This is when electoral votes will be redistributed away from states that have lost populations towards states that have gained in population. As you can see here, states like California, New York, Minnesota, Illinois, Oregon, Rhode Island are going to lose electoral votes. States like Idaho, Utah, Arizona, Texas, and Florida are all poised as of right now to gain seats. This would mean that if what it's projected to be right now turns out in 2030, this map right here, if the Republicans win, Arizona, Georgia, North Carolina, because if this happens, this moves 11 electoral votes towards the Republicans in safe seats. Now, if you look at this, 11 electoral votes, that would mean all the GOP needs to do is win Arizona, Georgia, North Carolina. Now, between these three states, Texas and Florida, this would be 11 more electoral votes, which would be 273 electoral votes. We do not need to win Nevada. We do not need to win Pennsylvania, Michigan, or Wisconsin. Does not mean we should do everything we can to appeal to those voters, but this is why the Democrats want radical open borders. They want to decriminalize it. Because here's a little tricky thing. If you didn't know this, when they do the census every year or every 10 years, they don't just count citizens. It is anyone, regardless of their legal status in the United States, is counted in the census. So if during Biden, when they were shipping in 2, 3, 4 million illegals every year, sending them to places like New York, Minnesota, California, what they're going to do is they're going to increase the population there. So then they will maintain these electoral votes. They will maintain districts, because when you lose an electoral vote, you also lose a House district. So that's also something they have to grapple with, where the Biden administration, and if AOC were to ever become president and abolish or really decriminalize this, you would see a lot of this electoral forecast shift back towards Democrat states like California, Minnesota, Illinois, and New York. And that's why we must win in 2028. We must win. But jumping back over to culture wars, that's a big one. We know AOC and DeSantis are very big, popular figures when it comes to the culture wars. DeSantis will double down on protecting kids from radical transgender LGBTQ plus divided sign minus sign indoctrination. He will protect parental rights, allow parents. He's not going to let the Biden DOJ or the DOJ prosecute parents who go to school board meetings and bring up concerns they have with pornography in their schools. It's not going to happen. Well, meanwhile, AOC is going to go full woke on her policies, gender ideology being pushed in classrooms and in schools. She's going to tie funding to equity curriculums. She's going to defund the police. She's going to cancel anyone who disagrees with her. And by 28, the pendulum will have swung so far back that people are tired of this nonsense. People are tired of it. And then the big one is when it comes to energy. People want to, you want to talk about the economy, the cost of living, inflation. You can't have that conversation without talking about energy. Energy prices affect every single portion of that. Let's say, just for example, eggs is a very, very easy one. We're not going to talk about eggs. Let's talk about milk. Milk is easy. Let's say energy costs, let's just say for a gallon or a barrel of oil right now, it's $50. Just throwing numbers out there. These are not the actual numbers. And that barrel increased to $100. What is that used for in the process of milk? So cows are at a farm. When they come, when these cows are milked, they're most likely milked using some sort of mechanical system. What does that take? It costs energy to run that system. Then when they churn the milk, where it either turns into like a cheese, any sort of different dairy products, or they separate it into skim milk, 1%, 2%, and whole milk, that costs money. There's a machine that does that, which takes energy. It requires energy to do that. Then that milk, after it's being bottled or put in jugs, which, by the way, probably goes through a conveyor belt, also takes energy to run these machines, is then loaded up on a truck, which takes diesel to ship it across the country, to then be dropped off at a store, which then it costs energy to keep it refrigerated while you're shipping it across the country. And it costs energy, or it takes energy to refrigerate it while it's in the store until someone gets it to their house. So you have energy touches every single place in that supply chain. So if Trump is able to get energy prices down, we are going to see a reduction in the cost of living and prices at the grocery store. You're going to see it in transportation cost. You're going to see it in actual operating cost to get a gallon of whole milk or a gallon of 2% milk. Everything that has to be done from the moment the cow is milked until it's whole milk, bottled, sealed, and ready to be shipped off. It costs a lot of energy to do that. It takes a lot of energy. And if we can get energy prices down, you can reduce the cost of these day-to-day goods. So And DeSantis supports American oil and gas, energy independence, which keeps prices low and jobs. And it doesn't need to be America in energy only. I'm okay with us taking in crude oil or gasoline from from Alberta, gets shipped down in a pipeline into the United States through the Dakotas, and then is refined in the United States, and then our oil companies are able to make a huge profit by selling this. I'm totally fine with other countries that treat the United States fairly of doing this. I have no problem with that. But also, we should unleash American energy independence, which will keep prices low. It will keep jobs in America. We need to make America the energy capital of the world. Like, we need to be the shining light on the hill. And with AOC, you're going to have the Green New Scam, which will kill fossil fuels overnight, spike energy costs, and leave America begging for foreign powers to give us energy. We're going to be buying energy from Russia and China and India. Really? And then you also look at, LNG, liquefied nitrogen gas, or liquefied natural gas, liquefied natural gas. The Biden administration, this was huge for Europe, by the way. When Russia cut off energy into Europe, this was huge for a lot of American companies that were able to take their big tankers, ship tons of LNG over to Europe. It gets re-liquefied because when it's shipped, it's turned into a gas state, which then it's shipped over there, and then it's re-liquefied, held in storage there, and then it can be distributed. But Biden put a hold on any new LNG permits, which is just totally ridiculous. You want to talk about clean energy. This is clean energy here. You want to get away from coal power plants? This is a better way to do it. What AOC wants would spike energy costs, it would kill fossil fuels, and it would kill American industries. It would put millions of workers out of work. And most Americans with common sense see through this radical fairy tale that's told by the Democrat Party. They see through this bullshit. And here's the bottom line. Ron DeSantis would win this because he's a doer, not a dreamer. He doesn't sit around on Twitter all day. He gets stuff done. He's got experience. 8 years running a state that's got 20 million plus people in it. AOC's got 6 years in Congress of grandstanding, tweeting, and proposing the most radically insane, non-pragmatic pieces of legislation we have probably ever seen. And the reality is for AOC, the presidency isn't an entry-level job. But the thing is that there's a big wing of the party, of the Democrat Party, that's looking for someone like this, someone to replace the Bernie Sanders. But would the Democrat establishment allow this to happen? I have a hard time seeing that. I do, just like they did to Bernie in 2016, and then they did to Bernie in 2020. I just have a hard time seeing the establishment doing that, but maybe they do that. Maybe they jump behind that. Maybe they decide that that's what they want. And when it comes to Ron DeSantis, electability matters. DeSantis crushed it in the 22 midterms. Winning moderates, Democrats, Republicans. It's like he went from 30,000 vote margin of victory in 2018 to 1.5 million votes. He was responsible from turning Florida from a purple state into a red Republican stronghold. And AOC is way too far left. Polls already show that independents distrust her socialist utopian ideas. And in a general election, I really think she would tank outside of the deep blue bubbles. Could she win California? This is what I think. Good, strong campaign by Ron DeSantis. I think this is where you have stuff in play. Ron DeSantis runs versus AOC. Nevada, 100%. Sorry, I didn't mean to do that to Utah. Arizona, 100%. Georgia, 100%. North Carolina, 100%. It's like, I see him sweeping, like this would literally be a landslide. And here's the good one. New Hampshire. New Hampshire likes more of these Republicans. And not saying like Chris Sununu and Ron DeSantis are alike because they're very different. But Ron DeSantis does not have as much baggage and he's a lot more polished. You look at the 2024 election in New Hampshire, it's like you have Harris only winning the state by a couple points. Yeah, look at this, by like a little over 2.5 points. It's like this with a good, well-polished candidate like Ron DeSantis could be huge. This could be huge. This is where my prediction is as of right now. Because by 2028, Trump's shadow is going to fade. He's not going to be running in 2028. DeSantis will be able to unite the GOP base and swing voters with a clear, conservative, common sense vision. AOC is going to energize the progressives, but she's going to scare off basically everyone else. The math just does not add up for her. You need to be able to win in states like Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Georgia, Arizona. You need to be competitive in these areas. You could even look at places like Minnesota becoming a little more moderate. Maybe they still vote for AOC, but maybe it's a really close margin. Look at Virginia. I think Virginia could be in play if something like that happens. Honestly, I even think the 2nd Congressional District in, what is this place called? Nebraska could be in play. But I also think across the board, the margins would shift. I think they would be even better margins than Trump saw in this election here in 24, when he had huge, great margins, like only losing the state of New York by 12 points, losing the state of California by 20. Like, these are great margins for Republicans in a statewide election like this. Just like, let's be honest about this. You could see states that were close like that really start to shrink up. Even look at Maine. Keep Maine in play. Not that I don't think he would flip it, but I think he could do a very, very good job of doing it. But this is where I'm at right now. If there was an election held, this is where I'm at right now. The math just does not work in her favor. Conservatives are going to rally behind DeSantis along with independents and moderate Democrats because he delivers on what we value: limited government, personal freedom, and a strong America, economic opportunity. While AOC is a protest vote. She's not a president. She'd be there to try and espouse radical socialist policies like Medicaid for all, the Green New Scam, eliminating fossil fuels. So DeSantis versus AOC, it's not just a race. It would be a referendum on the soul of America. Do we choose proven leadership that builds on what works, or untested, radical leftist ideas that are going to risk it all? This is no contest at all. DeSantis doesn't just win, he restores faith in a country. That's really what I think. But I think Trump's going to do a lot of that over the next 4 years. But DeSantis would continue on the legacy of free, prosperous, and proud to be an American. It's great to see that so many people are proud to be Americans. This is what you love about it. People are proud to be Americans once again. They're not ashamed to be an American. America has made a lot of mistakes. But relatively speaking, yeah, if we're lining ourselves up for, look at any other country in the world. I will put America's history up versus any other countries, and I'll take ours any day of the week. Any day of the week, I take ours. There's no country that is better than America. There just isn't. We have a lot of things we have to work on. But at the end of the day, the idea of what America is, this idea that we're all fighting towards, is so much better. And we've had a lot of wrongs in our past, and we've righted a lot of those wrongs. But that's going to wrap things up for today. This race, DeSantis smokes it. That's my take. Appreciate you guys listening today. We will catch you next time. Don't forget to drop down below, hit that subscribe button, smash that like button. We'll catch you next time, folks.